Hello, and welcome to Retrospective Cinema, a podcast wherein we'll endeavor week after week to see the full filmographies of chosen directors. We'll interpret, critique, and discuss. I'm your co-host, Ryan Saylor.
And I am your other co-host, Annie Morell. And this week, we keep it short and sweet with Fellini's 70-minute orchestra rehearsal. Here's a clip.
E cosa vuoi da me? Devi intervenire.
That was once again from Orchestra Rehearsal, a television movie from Fellini, yet another one. Only 70 minutes, as I said, and I don't know how you're feeling, but phew, thank goodness, is only 70.
I'm not sure if that's in response to the previous films or if that's how I feel about this one.
That is how I feel about this one. I'll get to the bottom of it right now. That is how I feel about this one.
So up front, we are a full spoiler podcast. You're probably fine. If you've made it to us talking about Orchestra Rehearsal, you've either seen the movie or you're along for the ride. So
the title
welcome.
Spoils the movie.
They do rehearse,
except for I guess one part.
Oh
they
yeah,
sure do.
A lot of parts. No, I'd say that this goes some directions I did not expect. But yeah, okay. When I thought about this movie and my feelings on it, I think I do have to just preface this whole conversation. And I feel a little pretentious doing this, but I do have a bachelor's in music. And I think that's come up on here before. But it really did affect my viewing of this. So I just have to say it. Sorry.
Oh, that means you had a pause. Are we going to fight?
No,
Are we about to fight?
Well,
about this?
No, it's just Fellini, clearly did cast real people playing instruments. Mostly. There's one clarinet player that is doing his darndest, I think, maybe. But he still was, in the editing room and everything, as a good director is, and not lining up instruments to the sound. So it's in this weird spot where you can see that the musicians are doing what they're supposed to be doing, but they're not actually playing the parts of the pieces that we're hearing, even though they are playing the pieces. Anyway, it just, I don't know. It was difficult at times. It's
a bummer.
Mm-hmm. And then some of my viewing was just distracted by, there's like this woman playing violin in the front that has this is where I was like, I have to just say I went to college for this. Because she has this very stiff wrist and she's playing entirely with her arm and getting carpal tunnel live on camera. And I just don't know why, I don't know. She's immortalized playing violin in this, and I don't really play my viola anymore. So who am I guess? But yeah, I'm not sure what was going on with her posture.
This is exactly the type of content I thought I was going to be getting from you.
There you go.
After seeing this, and I'm happy about it, because I am not a musician really, and there are things visually and orally that just feel wrong paired together in this, and the way that certain people are playing feels wrong, and I can't put words to it, but you can. So thank you for that.
I didn't get a chance to look this up, and I'm not sure, but the French horn players are doing this weird elevated thing where they're all lifting the French horn perpendicular to their mouths. I don't know, maybe that's an Italian style of playing that does happen across nations at times, but I've never seen that before.
Yeah, that was wild. That also just feels so tiring, because like a French horn is not it's not a piccolo, like that's a heftier brass instrument.
Yeah.
And to just be, it's like at the level that you would in the 90s like put a boombox on your shoulder, like that is how they're playing it.
Yes, that's
I wondered about that too.
Yeah, so anyway, there were just some random things like that kind of threw me off, and I was trying to ignore them. Getting into this actual film, essentially what we have here is an allegory, a parable, whatever you want to say, for how society should interact with itself politically, I think. I guess that's my interpretation, but I felt pretty strongly about that, and I assume you read it similarly?
Oh, yeah.
Across 70 minutes, we have an orchestra, that's playing in unison, but their leader, their conductor, is too hard on them. And so they rebel and go into anarchy, and society, or, the room that they're rehearsing in, falls apart. And eventually they try to run themselves, but they can't do it. And then eventually they resubmit to authority, but then the cycle restarts. You can hear the metaphor as I say it. Yeah, it works relatively okay. But the other thing holding me back here, there are a lot of points of comparison between the musicians playing these instruments and how they interact with society. And so Fellini needs them to be certain things. Like, he needs the violin and the oboe, I think, hate each other at one point because the violin is domineering and the oboe is this old spirituality. And so, like, those represent facets of society, right? But that was also where I got kind of thrown off, because there actually are very much personalities drawn to certain instruments, which makes sense if you think about it. Like, certain instruments are in the spotlight, certain are back. You're going to have more extroverts on things like a violin or a trumpet, more introverts on things like a bass or a tuba, things in the back. It makes sense, honestly. And so the personalities that he aligned with the instruments were not accurate to my experience with who's on what instrument. So that was also something I had to kind of leave at the door. All that to say, I really wrestled against myself while watching this, trying to be like, okay, I see the metaphor. I need to just pay attention to the metaphor.
Yeah. Yeah, that totally makes sense. I agree that is an allegory for how society works and these kind of cycles. I think what bothered me is that it was such a mishmash of things. Like, I felt like it was trying to be reverent toward orchestras and instruments and music in much the same way that the Clowns was trying to be reverent toward clowning. And then you also have obvious allegory about society going on. And then it also felt like genuinely, and I have no evidence for this, there's no writing about this.
Very little's been written on this movie.
Yeah.
Just in general.
Yeah, it is not one that people are widely talking about. So I do feel, I think it's cool that I got to see this because not a lot of people have. Anyway, it felt like a complaint letter about artists not respecting a director. And like, it also felt like an allegory for that. And that, as a performer, like as an actor, that's what was distracting for me, because I was like, what is this propaganda? May I just say, if it had been, a totally reasonable conductor who was just getting steamrolled by these artists who don't have respect for the position anymore or whatever, that would be one thing. This conductor is like J.K. Simmons in Whiplash level abusive, and that's how the film ends. And I will say, like, how the film ends with that abuse coming back doesn't feel like it's saying, like, yes, it's good now, like, back to normal and this is okay, which is also why I say it's kind of a mishmash of everything, and the messaging is very confusing. But throughout the middle, it very much felt like, even though this guy is abusive, like verbally abusive to these musicians, that we were supposed to be sympathizing with him. And that just really rubbed me the wrong way. Like, of course, a director is going to write something that has this underneath. Like, it may have been subconscious for Fellini. I have no idea. But I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh, and specifically, not only that, but specifically the show of disdain for unions felt like, again, like he's like, oh man, I really gotta answer to SAG now. I'm really supposed to root for this union busting conductor, or like care what he has to say.
I do think that element's there of, Fellini seeping into this director role, this conductor role in this case. But I don't think it's condoning union busting or the abuse. I think it's just, like you're saying, it's a bit of a hodgepodge, and there's a lot going on and doesn't quite all fit together. But no, I didn't take it as Fellini being like, these unions.
No, and I don't think so either. I think, if anything, it's more just like, wouldn't it all just be like that? That is the literal message from the conductor, and I think maybe the guy who copies the sheet music also says this, that, in the old days, before we had all these like rules and protections, you make the most beautiful music, and it just can't be like that. And the conductor was a sacred figure, and it's just not like that anymore now. And it just felt so like old man yelling at cloud, like
Sure.
ridiculous complaints about how society has changed around him.
I don't know. I don't think that represents Fellini's opinion. I think that's just, he lets all of the characters have their heightened opinions to their logical conclusions. Like, no one has the, quote unquote right idea in this film. It's just everyone's taking things to extremes. So, yeah, I don't think anything the director says or anything the players say are supposed to be taken as gospel truth.
Okay.
On the note of the conductor, so my subtitles, I assume we watched the same one. There was actually a restoration done on this film a couple years ago, so it's actually presented in pretty high quality.
Oh, yeah.
The subtitles call the conductor the director repeatedly. And I was like, okay, I see what's going on here. Like, Fellini's saying, this is a director, not a conductor. And he's using that word choice because he's a director. I'm picking up what's putting down. And then I looked up the Italian word for conductor, and it is direttore. And the subtitles were just poorly translating that as director. It is just the word conductor. So,
because they do also call him conductor in some of
by the end,
at least the one I watched.
I think they realized the mistake and just didn't go back and fix it. That's source nothing, because it literally switches.
Didn't search and replace director.
Right. Well, the first 50 minutes or so it says director, and then the last 20 it says conductor.
Incredible.
Yeah, I don't know.
You're like, who's even watching this?
They're like, who's gonna notice?
It's fine.
No one's gonna talk about it on a podcast in the year 2026.
Certainly not.
Somewhere a subtitler just woke up from his bed in a cold sweat. I'll stop harping on, my experience versus this film. But the domineering conductor, it was funny. I know he's supposed to be doing these things that mimic society. So like the big thing that he does that causes all this strife, he singles out this player. He says, you need to play alone. And the guy's like, well, that's against the union rules. I don't play alone. And I get what's going on in the metaphor, because you single out a person that's supposed to be part of a larger workforce, and they're like, well, I have my friends, and I get it. But in an actual orchestra, having people play their individual parts is part of rehearsing. That is something that players
thought that
do
too.
So
even I know that.
So it was super funny when they're like, I've never played alone in all my years. I was like, wow, I hope no one gives you a solo. I'm like, goodness gracious.
Yeah, literally the pianist playing a solo at the beginning of one of the pieces. But
exactly.
Okay, sure. Yeah, that was silly. Do your research, Fellini.
It's just not a great...
You got Nino right there.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'll come back to that in just a second. But yeah, I don't know that the metaphor really worked. Yeah, it's hard to miss this fact when you look up the film. But this is our last Nino Rota collaboration, because he died shortly after the film.
Yeah, I was super bummed.
Yeah.
Super bummed to read that.
Yeah.
I have no idea what it's even going to be now. They're just synonymous in my mind.
Yeah, what is a Fellini movie with not a Nino Rota score? Yeah.
Sad. Rest in peace, Nino.
This news getting to us, 50 years late, but it's just hitting us now.
Yeah. Hey, I can still be sad.
Yeah. The film takes a while to get going, which is kind of funny to say with the short of a runtime, but for quite a while, it's interviews with various players. And I did actually like this element of the film. The story here is that this is like a TV special that's a documentary. This one's actually a mockumentary, this film. Like we've talked about docufiction a lot, but this one is proper mockumentary, which is kind of cool. And they're going in to see this orchestra rehearse. And so all of these individual players are saying why their instrument is the most important of the group. And they're playing pranks on each other. And there's like a little bit of chaos, like a rat scurries and everyone screams.
Yeah, the violinist checks his barometer to see if he should take out his special violin. Mm-hmm. That felt right to me.
Yes.
That felt correct.
They're in this, dilapidated building that has the old masters watching over them. There's like a Bach on the wall. There's a Beethoven on the wall.
It was originally a tomb, and it currently holds popes and bishops. I don't know what you call that. It's like the tops of the individual tombs in the ground.
I have no idea.
Yeah, but like the start of it is I thought this was cool and very Fellini. Is like, look at all the history of this building, and now because of the great acoustics, it's being used as a concert venue, but it's like it's got this long storied history. And
yeah, and right away, like seemingly the spirits of those people are, either playful or dissatisfied, depending on how you read it, but they're like throwing the music off the stands as it gets set up.
Yeah, I liked the falling bit, a little bit of slapstick.
Yeah.
And there's slapstick throughout this too, which is pretty fun.
So this structure of, interviewing the performers and hearing their stories and hearing why their instrument's best and all that goes for 45 minutes or so. And then in between that, they're playing these big pieces, so you get some proper musical pieces.
They're rehearsing, yeah.
But again, you gotta close your eyes, or otherwise the bows aren't gonna line up. Anyway, they play so long, they're drenched in sweat, and people are taking off their clothes, and they rebel. And then after that, they overthrow the conductor, and we get proper Fellini chaos. There's people having sex in the aisles, and they replace the conductor with a giant metronome, and they're praising the metronome, and that was quality. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, they're writing stuff all over the walls, like protests. And then side note, I loved the pianist and then some other musician that are starting to canoodle under this piano, and then she just like, as he's kissing her neck, she pulls out like a sandwich and starts eating it.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Give me more of that. That was great.
So this chaos reigns for a little bit, and they decide, well, wait a second, we're not getting anything done. So now we need order again. And that's when they reinstill the conductor, and then he's just as vicious as he was in the film ends.
Well,
so there's not a lot here.
Yeah, I will say it's not just their chaos. It's the fact that a giant wrecking ball bursts through the wall, which is maybe a manifestation of like the amount of chaos and destruction they're wreaking. But yeah, a wrecking ball bursts through the wall, a bunch of rubble falls on various parts of the room, killing the harpist. And then someone says or I think it's the conductor says music saves us. And then they're all just like very sadly starting rehearsal again. And yeah, then he is still super mean to them. You think, oh, well, he's learned too through this tragedy. And no, the people in power don't change.
Right. And that is how the world works. I will give the film that. We overthrow fascism and we're like, we're never going to do that again. And then we get so complacent that we're like, we need a stronger leader, and it comes back. And yeah, that's what happens. So I do respect Fellini for growing up in post-war Italy and mid-war Italy even. And then now it's the late 70s, and nothing's like World War II, obviously, but he might be starting to see some seeds in the world and making this statement this way, making it accessible. Like, I get why he's making this film, and I think that is neat. I don't know. I'd be interested to talk to someone that like loves this film, because it definitely plays like lesser Fellini to me, and I don't quite know what I needed from this to make it work, because maybe I just needed the orchestra to be fully accurate and actually playing their instruments all the time and lining up. Maybe that would have brought me in, because I was kept at a distance from that. But the metaphor almost could have been a short film.
Exactly.
So I'm not sure what drew him to make this his next feature, especially at 70 minutes, unless maybe that's what the TV network wanted from him. I mean, there's so little written about this film. I tried to do research and was left high and dry.
No, same. It feels very much to me like I can't remember which film you said this about or way earlier on in the filmography at this point, but it feels like he made the end, the last 30 minutes or so, and they're like, you need to make a little more than that. Like, we gotta stretch this out into a feature. And that's why we get the introduction to all these musicians that is just honestly painfully slow. Like, I don't think any of the dialogue or the characters that we're like vaguely introduced to are interesting enough to hold my attention for that amount of time. And it's not a super long amount of time in film world.
Yeah.
And it felt like, are we building to something where these explanations are going to matter? Like, is this just a love letter to the orchestra, which is genuinely what I thought it was going to be for the first half of it. And then no, it's, this metaphor for what maybe Fellini is seeing in the world. And that's fine too. Like, but pick one, like pick a lane is kind of how I feel about it. And I don't know. I had such trouble. This was like the longest 70 minutes for me. The last bit, very engaging. But at that point, I was so beaten down that I was like, okay, the climax is here. Thank goodness. That means we're almost done. There were certain moments that I liked for sure, but it didn't feel consistent and sustaining. It didn't sustain my attention. And I'm someone who can watch, something more kind of atmospheric like Goodbye Dragon Inn, which you recommended to me and I really love. And just kind of a pastiche of like life and a building and the happenings in that building. I do think I am capable of liking something like that, which this kind of tries to be a little bit here and there, but it just isn't. It isn't it for me.
Yeah.
And not to say that I didn't like certain bits, like the condom balloon trumpet prank where like someone's put a condom in the trumpeter's trumpet and he ends up like blowing it up and popping it. Great. I mean, the slapstick moments, fun and silly, but everything else is just feels so lackluster that happens to establish, this group or whatever it's even. I'm not even 100% sure what it is trying to do. Like it doesn't have that strong of any sort of conviction to it for me. So yeah, I really struggled with this.
Fair. I definitely liked it more than you based on that. I don't think this is anything incredible, but I do appreciate it for this man that's getting a little older and has lived through the extremes at this point. I mean, World War II and Mussolini and Hitler, all of that it's hard for us to even like fathom, but like you read about the atrocities and yeah, that's as extreme as it gets. And then now he's made it all the way through the 60s and 70s and he's seen art reform and he's seen the hippie counterculture and all of that. And he's come out in support of that, like in Roma. But now he's seen the pendulum swing back. I think he's just getting a little scared. Are we doomed to repeat the past? Yeah, I think that's all that you're supposed to do with it, quote unquote, is acknowledge like,
yeah,
well, where are we going to be? And like, is there an actual balance that we can find? Because the pendulum keeps swinging and we aren't finding that balance.
And I love that message, but he has shown that he's capable of portraying that message way, way more effectively than this. I guess the message is there, but it also needs to be engaging as art, in order for the message to be effectively disseminated.
Right. No, that's super fair. So going back to what you said earlier, though, about none of the characters being that engaging, that really did surprise me while watching the film. And I agree with you, but we're only 2 films post-Amarcord, right?
Yeah.
And that film, I mean, yeah, my favorite element of it is that you just know these people so intimately, so quickly, and they're all so interesting. And it's like, well, why don't you do that here? And I do wonder, like, is it just that he needs these people to represent their factions of this metaphorical society, so he couldn't give them more personality? Like, was it an intentional choice? I don't know. And if it was, though, it doesn't pay off in much of any way. I think it does make the front half much less interesting than the back half, which is unfortunate because, yeah, we definitely have seen what he's capable of, like you were saying. Because I can reflect on what he's going for here, and it was so brief that I didn't get bored just because I didn't have time to get bored, I guess. Ultimately, like, I was fine with this. I don't think it's anything incredible, but I didn't. It sounds like you really did not enjoy yourself.
No, I'm upset. I think it has a lot of potential to be really awesome, and I'm upset that it wasn't. I'm upset that it was as bland as the title itself. The title feels like what's the first thing we can think of to call this thing? And that's how the entire script feels. It feels like a first draft. I'm not sure. Even the clowns, even though I didn't love that one either, and we talked all about our many issues with it, felt more realized. Even if it wasn't rubbing off on me quite as much, I could feel his passion for the subject.
Yeah, definitely that was a topic he knew more about.
Yeah, well, clearly, yeah. So why even pick an orchestra? And I think there's some textual evidence of why he picked an orchestra. The conductor at one point says the orchestra is like a factory, which is a great metaphor because it's like, oh, they produce sound.
Mhm.
They're all machines producing something for people to enjoy, which is what a factory does, ostensibly, at least. It puts us immediately in the mindset of thinking about like how society works and how capitalism works and all of those things.
Yeah, he just needed a consultant on this. I think that was the big thing. He needed a music consultant to say this thing works or this thing doesn't work.
We don't see him on camera, but we get Fellini behind the camera, like actually within the narrative of this documentary, mockumentary.
That worked fine for me because it allowed me to not be like, oh, this is Fellini. Like, it felt like he was actually playing a character, even if it was still his voice and everything.
You think? Because at one point, I think it's the first time he even talks behind the camera before the actual cut is going to happen. He is talking to someone and says, do you really think 8.5 is a psychoanalytic film?
Yeah, there was that. But I don't know. I thought that was tongue-in-cheek, and I liked it.
Sure. If it's going to be Fellini, like, actually, because that is his voice, and he's going to literally say that. Like, how can you say that it's not actually meant to be, like, actually?
Well, yeah, but I mean, in 8.5, the character of Guido, though they don't say the name, I guess that's the difference, to me, canonically has made La Dolce Vita. So, like, the director of this film has canonically made 8.5, but I don't think that makes him 100% Fellini. That's what I mean.
Okay. Yeah, it doesn't actually, I don't think it really matters.
Sure.
I'm going to think of it as actually Fellini, and that's fine. It doesn't really affect the rest of the film. It's just kind of interesting to think about.
Mm-hmm. You brought up the clowns, and the one thing I will say that this really has up on his previous TV works is the production value here is great.
Yeah.
They've laid down lots of track for various tracking shots. The camera captures things well. The editing is mostly smooth. There actually was one strange cut, but maybe that was intentional, where someone's clearly meant to be delivering the same sentence and it cuts in the middle of the sentence. Anyway, that's fine. Yeah, I didn't feel like, wow, this one was made for TV like I did with the clowns. And this is definitely cheaper. It's, restrained to this one group in this one room, except for they go to a bar one time. So maybe he got to spend more on the camera and the setup for all that, but the lighting works better in this.
Yeah,
it's just much more professional than some of his previous stuff.
Yeah,
for television. So I was glad about that.
I would agree that the equipment feels like not made for TV as much as it has in the past. I think I would be so upset if I saw this in theaters. Like, I would need to see another movie. It would need to be in a double feature to be anything. Not just for the length, but just for what it is ultimately. Like, it doesn't feel cinematic in structure, I guess.
Huh. I mean, I disagree with that. I think it's perfectly fine to make a film this small. I don't know that it's fully effective, but I don't know that if I saw it in a theater, I'd be like, this wasn't a film. Like, I was satisfied. I watched a movie.
You felt like you watched a movie? I felt like I watched a TV special.
Okay.
Yeah. Which it was.
I guess, what did you need for it to be that part of it?
Like,
I mean,
almost structurally, it feels like it's lacking a piece, like a whole big piece to make it something that could be seen in the cinema. I'm not sure what it would be.
Interesting.
I'm not sure that it would be just like adding something in the middle of it or what. Yeah, it feels lacking in some way. And maybe it is just that I didn't like the execution and it has nothing to do with any of this.
Yeah, because I mean, you can make all kinds of stuff with a short length feature. But yeah, so I agree that the execution here is lacking. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, we've talked about a couple 80-minute films. Perfect Blue's 80 minutes, Petit Maman's 80 minutes, brilliant films. So yeah, I think the execution's lacking on this one, but I don't know that makes it not a film.
Okay. Maybe you're right. I don't really care. I'm upset.
Okay.
I was weirdly excited for this one, and I think I was upset that we're back to, like you were saying, it's mockumentary, not docufiction, but it's basically docufiction again, and I just need him to stop with this format. Like, none of it has been my favorite. Like, Roma has been the best version of it.
Yeah.
And that's not even ranking, like, terribly highly in my ranking so far.
Yeah, it's strange. I mean, I get why he keeps doing it, because I mean, no one else is at the time. We're still like,
yeah, sure,
a couple years off Spinal Tap when that's even popularized. So I understand him being like, check this out. I'm changing the game. But yeah, watching it in the modern day, his documentary-esque stuff does not feel nearly as special as everything else he does retroactively.
Yes.
And maybe at the time it did feel special because it was new, but it is aged to be just fine. Whereas something like, my goodness, Knights of Cabiria, 8.5, La Dolce Vita, like those films are still just monumental. Yeah, maybe when Fellini was making all this art about wrestling with his legacy, maybe he was wondering if he would be known for his docu-fiction or if that would fade away.
I just gotta get a few of them out there in the world. One of them will stick, maybe. I think it's cool what I'm doing. No, but I do. I think to me, like comparing, Knights of Cabiria and even 8.5 to this and like why those have had such staying power and none of the docufictions except Roma really have.
Roma definitely does have a fan base.
Yes. Yeah. Which is why the caveat Roma. I wonder if it has to do with the fact that those, not Roma, but like 8.5 and Knights of Cabiria are a lot more character focused, and humanity, like showing someone's humanity and flaws and struggles, is a lot more timeless than something like this that is very, it has a message for the moment, as we've been talking about, that maybe Fellini is looking at where society is headed and is wondering if it's fascism again. I mean, it's certainly a message for this moment as well. Everything is cyclical, but I guess I'm just wondering, why is it that those have way more staying power than this? And maybe it's also just that they're less effective, the clowns and orchestra rehearsal, and is it just because they're less good than those other things, or is it the format itself? I'm not sure. Maybe a combination of both.
Yeah.
Just ruminating at this point.
Yeah, there was such a distillation moving from Italian neorealism to something post that in his work from Eva Deloni through about 8.5. And yeah, I mean, I've said since Roma that we're kind of just in uncharted territory. And I'm not sure we're ever going to rechart, which, I mean, is fine. Like, you can kind of go one film at a time. But it no longer seems like we're trying to reach some pinnacle film, or like he's interested in exploring a certain themes. And maybe that wasn't even a conscious thing before, but there was a clear arc from film to film. Whereas, now it's, I don't know, each week I'm kind of like, well, let's see what we get this time.
Yeah, going from Casanova to this, I would have lost that bet if I had placed one back in the day. Like, what's his next movie going to be about? If Calci existed in the 70s, would have lost a boatload of money. Well, I probably wouldn't have bet it because, what a wild card at this point.
Well, I definitely know your answer.
You do.
Tradition's tradition. Would you recommend the film?
No, I had to pay for it. I had to rent it, and I'm not. It's still Fellini, but no, I don't even really have any caveats. It's not the worst film I've ever seen by a mile, but my goodness, you have so many other better options in his filmography to watch. See all of those before you see this. Only if you're doing literally what we're doing, I think, should you watch this. Or if you don't understand what fascism is, then maybe watch it. You probably still won't understand it, though.
Yeah.
Because you kind of need to know about it in order to then glean the message that this has. But anyway, no, we're all shocked. I say no. And I think you agree with me, but what about you?
No, I don't think I'm going to recommend it. There are pieces of this that I like, and it's so short that, like, I don't know. I definitely didn't have the experience you did where I was, like, trudging my way through it. By the time I was like, wow, this isn't working very well, it was over. But I just don't think it comes together in any kind of meaningful way. And I don't see, I mean, it's hard enough to convince, most people to watch a masterpiece that's more than 10 years old.
Yeah.
You're either watching this because you're a completionist like us, or, I don't know how else you got here. You accidentally got that Arrow Academy Blu-ray that was out for a day that is out of print. I did see that in my research. So no, I do, like I said earlier, I do respect that he's trying to accessibly warn people about something he's lived through and doesn't want to see again. But yeah, I just wish he did it better, or if he was going to do it in this way, have a consultant that can explain, okay, this metaphor only works metaphorically because you're doing this, this, and this.
Yeah. Do you agree with us? Do you disagree with us? Truly,
taking my
if you have an
job.
opinion-
My union says that I get this part.
You can
refuse.
take it back. I truly wasn't trying
blowing
to.
up this building, having sex on the piano.
Getting
because...
that wrecking ball a swinging.
If you agree or disagree with anything we've said here, you can you can write to us, retrospectivecinema@gmail.com. Again, every time I open that email, a little poof of dust flies off. So feel free, hit us up on that. I'd love to get a notification that isn't spam in that email. If you love this film, yeah, please talk to us. Tell us what's going on. What did we miss? It's only 70 minutes. My rental doesn't expire for 48 hours. Maybe I'll check it out again. No, by the time you're hearing this, it's been like a week. Oh, well. You can also find us on Instagram and TikTok at retro_sin, CIN. I am on Letterboxd at Ryan Loves Film.
And I am also on Letterboxd at Annie Morell. Oh my gosh. Next week, I'm actually excited about this one. I hope that my excitement won't be crushed immediately like it was this week. We're watching City of Women, and we get the return of Marcello Mastroianni, and I'm excited. I almost saw this film when I was in Chicago last summer at, one of their historic theaters there, and I didn't see it. And I'm kind of glad, to be honest, because I do think what little I know about it, that being my first Fellini would have been a wild time. But we'll see. Yeah, I'm thrilled to be heading to a city of women.
There you go.
My land, my people.
We haven't had a collaboration between them in quite a while, and I'm excited to see if getting back together with one of his muses can really bring things home, or if we're still floating. Who knows? It's been a surprise every week. I will say, Amarcord just a couple weeks ago, masterpiece. So I don't think we're done getting greatness from Fellini, but it's less frequent than it was before.
Sure. It's hard. I mean, he's quite prolific.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the batting average is still great.
Yeah.
Even if I didn't like this one. And it's all relative as well. I'm holding him to a different standard than I held Osgood Perkins. If you've been with us for that and you're like, wow, Annie's being way hard on Fellini.
I don't know that we are. I mean, we tore apart a couple of those.
Well, I might be.
Perkins films.
I don't know. I'm trying to outrun the allegations, possible allegations.
Although I do still
just preemptively
quite recommend I Am the Pretty Thing That Lives in the House. I know that was a hot take.
I don't.
There you go.
That was a hot take. Have fun with that.
Whether you are checking out Dang it. I gotta get through it. Whether you're checking out I Have the Pretty Thing That Lives in the House, or getting orchestra rehearsal and knowing that director is actually the word for conductor and the subtitles messed up, or you're tracking down I just saw a castration movie. I can't recommend this to enough people. Blew my mind. It's 4.5 hours. It's got a ton of content. Look up what you're getting into. But, oh my gosh. Yeah. The digital age has never been better represented. It's so cool. Loved it.
Wow. Still no themes right now. We're in a holidayless time right now.
I mean, school's getting out. And I survived the year watching.
Ooh. Congrats.
Oh, it was a hard year.